Welcome back. I often talk about how the rise in mortgage rates and home prices over the past several years is causing housing affordability to be at all-time record lows, which of course is hampering home buying demand. But in today's video, I'm going to provide an in-depth analysis regarding property taxes and home insurance because those have been increasing greatly over the past several years as well, which of course is impacting home buying demand. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I have a lot to share. This report is from the National Association of Home Builders regarding property taxes by the state. In this report here, I'm going to share the states in which property taxes are the highest and also the areas in which property taxes are the lowest. And then I'll touch on a couple of reports I found regarding home insurance rates across the nation as well. So let's first talk about this. So based on their analysis, New Jersey led the nation with the highest annual property taxes paid, $9,285 per year. That's about $775 per month in just property taxes paid in New Jersey, compared to only $860 for the entire year in Alabama. So in New Jersey, the average property tax bill is around $9,300, about $775 per month, which that monthly rate is very close to the yearly rate in Alabama. Some very big differences there. Vermont, by the way, was the only state in which the average property tax bill decreased compared to 1 year ago. So here's a map of the United States here, and the areas in red or peach here are the areas that have the highest property taxes paid. This, by the way, is analysis of property taxes paid the entire year last year for 2022. So as you can see here, California, New York were some of the areas in which property taxes paid were the highest. So let's just take a step back here. How is the total amount of property taxes impacted? So the two things that's really impacted here is home prices and of course the property tax rate. So in California, for example, we're obviously known for high property taxes or high property values, and therefore the amount of property tax paid is higher compared to other areas as well. And by the way, I should mention here, this is the average annual real estate taxes per owner-occupied house for 2022. So in California and also in Washington and New York, we have high property taxes, whereas Alabama and also these other areas here in green have very low property taxes comparatively. So speaking of property tax rates, New Jersey led the nation with an average property tax rate of 1.85%. That was followed very closely behind that, which was Illinois at 1.84%. In contrast, Hawaii had the lowest average rate at 0.27%. In California, for example, our average property tax rate is around 1.25%, much higher compared to Hawaii, but much lower compared to Illinois and New Jersey. In regards to Hawaii, having the lowest average rate in the nation though, this low rate is combined with extremely high home values. So because of that, when looking at the total amount of property taxes paid per owner, it's actually in the middle of the pack here. Now, speaking of property tax rates, take a look at this because I want to look at California here. So California has one of the lowest property tax rates in the United States here, whereas the total amount of real estate taxes paid in 2022 is relatively high compared to other states here. And again, the reason why we have a high level of property taxes is because we have high home values and not high property tax rates. Also, one more thing I want to mention regarding this map right here is the property tax rate in Texas, for example, is one of the highest in the nation. However, something to keep in mind though, there's no income taxes in Texas. Therefore, the cost of living tends to be a little bit lower compared to other states. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about home insurance because home insurance varies quite a bit depending on the area you live in, but also in general, it has been increasing greatly over the past couple of years here. According to, this is policygenius.com, depending on where you live, you can expect to pay anywhere from $300 per year to over $4,000 per year, depending on if you're in an area that has strong storms or natural disasters here. So here's a map of the US here showing how home insurance varies quite a bit depending on the state you live in. So for example, Nebraska, your average insurance cost there is $3,510 per year. Oklahoma, even worse than that, $4,161 per year. And that's a whopping $347 per month in home insurance paid on average in the state of Oklahoma. In Nebraska, for example, you're going to pay around $293 per month on average in the state, which is really interesting because look at the rate for property taxes. Nebraska was one of these areas that is higher compared to these other states. Obviously, the darker the shade here, the more you're going to pay in property taxes. Versus here, second in the nation with the highest home insurance rates nationwide. Now, of course, this is partially offset by relatively more affordable housing compared to more expensive areas such as the West Coast. So for example, in California, the average home insurance rate is $1,383 per year versus over $3,500 in Nebraska. Policy Genius says average home insurance costs have increased significantly in each state in 2023, but homeowners in states with relatively low risk of natural disasters, such as Vermont and New Hampshire, haven't seen this sticker shock that other states are experiencing here. So they have a really good table here showing the percent difference of your annual cost of home insurance compared to the national average. So for example, in Arkansas, your average annual cost of home insurance is $2,838 per year compared to the $1,754 per year on a national average. That's an increase of 62% there. In contrast, look at California. $1,383 versus the nation average at about $1,700. That means in California, we're paying about 21% less than the nation's average. It's actually much better in Delaware though. Delaware is down by 48%, only $918 per year. Compared to Florida though, a 30% increase compared to the nation's average at about $2,300 on average for home insurance. In contrast, look at Hawaii though. I just can't believe this. $486 per year. That's 72% below the nation's average versus Kansas, Kentucky, and Louisiana, well above the nation's averages here. In Maine, 42% below. Missouri, up by 47%. And also Mississippi is 50% greater compared to the nation's average as well. In Nebraska, they're twice the national average. They're at $3,500 per year right now. New Hampshire's down by 46%. New Jersey is 49% below the nation's average. Look at this though. Oklahoma, $4,161 per year. That's 137% greater than the nation's average here. It's much different in Oregon, down by 50%, and Pennsylvania is down by 37%. South Dakota also is down greatly as well, down by 82%. Texas is 66% greater, whereas Vermont is 51% cheaper. Policy Genius also provided the states that have the most affordable areas for home insurance. So leading the nation with the most affordable here, only $311 per year in South Dakota. Number 2 spot is Hawaii, then Vermont, Oregon, and New Jersey, just under $900 per year. In contrast, here are the top 5 states that have the highest rates here. Oklahoma, again, led the nation, $4,161 per year. Nebraska in number 2 spot. Then we had Kansas, Texas, and Arkansas. Something I found to be interesting regarding Nebraska here, it has one of the highest property tax rates, and also it's second in the nation with the most expensive home insurance. Like I note right there, they have relatively more affordable home prices, which balances this out to a certain degree. Now, here's something that's I found to be really interesting as well, because if you're looking to buy an older house versus a new home, obviously there's pros and cons, right? You're buying a new house, you have all the updated materials, you have a lot less deferred maintenance, but in general, you pay higher property taxes. Something that I really wasn't aware of, but makes sense though, is that if you're buying a new house, typically your home insurance is a lot cheaper compared to an older house. Look at this. A new house, your average annual cost for home insurance is $1,107 per year. If the home is 30 years old though, your average cost is $1,925 per year. Therefore, it's roughly $800 cheaper to insure a new house versus a house that's at least 30 years old. This, of course, makes sense because a lot of houses that are 30 years old have a lot of obsolete materials in them, such as electrical, plumbing, etc., which makes it more expensive to insure, of course. Here's another report I want to share with you guys because this is again from Policy Genius. And by the way, just like my other videos or all my videos, I'll share a link to all the reports I'm going over in today's video. So if you guys want to look at that, because there's a lot more information that they went over in the reports that I'm not going to share. Otherwise, this video would be 13 hours long. But here's what they had to say for 2022. U.S. insurers paid out $99 billion in claims due to natural disasters, making it the fifth most expensive year on record for insurance losses. To help pay for this all, insurance companies appear to be passing more of these costs onto customers. So for example, from May 2022 through May 2023, home insurance policy premiums increased by an average of 21%. And of course, it's much worse when looking at the past couple of years because home insurance prices are up roughly by about 35% compared to 2 years ago, with several wildfire and tornado-prone states accounting for the largest annual increases here. The report here says that they found insurance premiums increased by an average of 68% in Florida, up by 47% in New Mexico, an increase of 46% in Colorado, Idaho, and Texas over the past 2 years alone. So just taking a step back here, not only do we have high home prices, which impacts high property taxes, of course, but also we have areas such as Florida, for example, where home insurance alone increased by 68% over the past 2 years. Also, check this out because Policy Genius looked at 44 states, including Washington, D.C. in this report here. It says out of those 44 states, 26 of those states, the average home insurance premiums on an annual basis went up by more than 20% between May 2022 through May 2023. So 26 of those 44 states had home insurance increases up by more than 20% over the past 1 year. For context, no state's average premium increased more than 19% from May 2021 through May of 2022. Whereas this year, or this last year, there was 26 states up by more than 20%. Also, between May of 2022 through May of this year, Florida's home insurance faced an average premium increase of 35% at renewal, followed by Idaho, a gain of 31%, Colorado at 30%. Then we had South Dakota, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma. So of course, not only is this impacting home buyers because they're looking at high inflation prices, high home prices, elevated rates as well, but also rising property taxes and rising home insurance depending on the area you're looking to buy. But this is also impacting homeowners as well. If you're a homeowner on a fixed income, for example, and your home insurance just went up by 68% in Florida or up by 47% in New Mexico, that is really hard for some people to pay, especially for those who are retired and also on a fixed income. So in regards to that, here are the states that have the highest percent increase of home insurance over the past 2 years. This is May 2021 through May of 2023. So again, Florida led the nation, a gain of 68%. Then we had New Mexico, Colorado, Idaho, and Texas. In contrast, the states with the lowest increases over the past 2 years was Vermont, only a gain of 7%. After that was Wisconsin, Massachusetts, Nevada, and New Hampshire. Also on the West Coast, we saw a fairly big increase as well. So for example, Washington, a 42% increase in home insurance premiums Oregon up by 38%, California up by 21%, and Nevada only increased by 16%. Versus the 42% increase in Kentucky. Alabama's up by 43%. And again, Florida, that giant increase compared to 2 years ago. Also in Arizona, up by 35%. New Mexico up by 47%. And Colorado increased by 46%. In contrast, much of the Northeast only saw small increases over the past couple of years. With that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, do you guys like this style of video? This is a little bit different than the typical videos I make, but I wanted to make this video because I always talk about how the rise in rates and prices is really impacting home buyers. But in general, of course, property taxes and home insurance varies quite a bit depending on the house and of course the state as well. So I hope you guys got some insights regarding or some value out of today's video. And of course, if you did, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Also consider subscribing as well. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.